I am Dracula. I bid you welcome.
Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Thou shalt rise again.
Power to make multitudes run squealing in terror at the touch of my little invisible finger.
Do you believe in werewolves?
To a new world of gods and monsters.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Eternal Midnight. I'm Chad here with Ken again. What's up, man?
Not a lot. I'm very excited to talk about this movie, actually.
What are we talking about and why are you excited to talk about it?
Talking about She-Wolf of London, and the reason I'm excited is I was just really pleasantly surprised. I'm not sure if you remember the Facebook group we're in when we announced that we were going to be talking about Universal Monsters on this box set. A friend of ours, great guy Bill, said, "Oh, She-Wolf of London sucks. There's not even a monster in it." And so I went in not expecting much. I was pleasantly surprised by like the murder mystery that we had.
I completely agree because I really was not. Some movies I'm decent at guessing what's going to happen, like stuff's obvious, but with this one, I was not.
Oh, really?
Well, I kind of suspected the aunt was a bitch.
40 minutes in was when I said, I bet she's the killer.
But I was tossing.
Spoiler alert, by the way, everyone.
At that point, I wasn't sure because then when she was like giving her the warm milk at the end, I was like, is she giving her something to transform her into a wolf every night? Like, I knew there was something with her that was behind this, but I wasn't sure if her and her daughter were in on it and they were trying to do something, if there actually was a monster, if there wasn't. I think the only thing out of, like we just said, with her being behind it all is when and how.
Yeah, but
which again, I'm not gonna sit and bash the film for that. I really like this one, and like I was fine with there not being a monster because it was much more the psychological, where like watching like Phyllis literally mentally break down this whole movie was like, that's what made it worth it to me, was watching this poor girl go from extremely happy living with her aunt and her cousin, she's engaged to a nice guy, and then boom, she's suddenly horrified to think she's killing people, and then her aunt's filling her head with these stories of, you have the curse of the werewolf is on your family.
Yeah, that was something I found really interesting, was the Allenby curse, like that it's a family curse. I'm like, that's a new direction to take it, and I really like that, like a lot better than it being a disease of the mind.
How did they change that between literally from one movie to a next, to be like, it's a disease of the mind, the next movie it's a curse?
Yes. So I imagine different writers. I wasn't paying attention, but I'm pretty sure different writers. But no, so basically, to really sum up the plot, yeah, Phyllis Allenby, played by June Lockhart, is engaged to Barry Lanfield, played by Dawn Porter, and her aunt and cousin, who aren't really biologically her aunt and cousin, sort of live.
That was so convoluted the way they described it. I was literally, I'm not gonna lie, I actually had to rewind it because for a second I was like, what?
Yeah, well, so basically they live with her, and I guess they're pretty much living as caretakers for her, along with some maid that they have, but
who's like the second best maid out of all these movies, because the first is still, you know who?
The Invisible Woman?
Yep, the Wicked Witch of the West.
Margaret Hamilton, yes.
Yep, she's still the best maid out of all
100%. 100%. No, okay, so also, so when they were actually saying that convoluted plot point about how, yeah, we're not really her cousin and her aunt, we're not really biologically related to her, I was thinking at that time, like for a good 10, 15 minutes after that, I was just like, that was so pointless. Why did they bring that up? But once it comes to that final twist in the end, it's like, oh, now I understand why.
And the weird thing is, it wasn't ever established that Phyllis was going to kick either of them out when she got married, though.
No, I don't think so.
Right. So it's like, what's the matter if her husband moves in here? It's still her estate.
That's more income, baby.
And if for some reason she chooses to go and live at his house, I'm sure she'll make a deal that'll allow you to still live there.
She seems so sweet. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not gonna lie, she was gorgeous too in this film. I thought.
Oh, definitely.
She was beautiful. But watching her break down too, I mean, from the beginning of the movie where she's like just this carefree, smiling, bubbly, happy young woman, to by the end, she's like cowering in fear, horrified to even leave her bed.
Oh yeah, she was great in this movie.
And I was also wondering the whole time if we were even gonna see if we're even gonna see her cousin's boyfriend, because the whole movie her mom's like, you will not see that man, you will not see him, and then the one scene we walk on roll, and then the one scene we see him, he's just sitting on a bench, and they're like, I was waiting for her. It's like, this was the big build up. This is him.
Exactly. But no, it was just, and it's like, I kind of don't want to go into too much. We already spoiled it a bit. I don't want to go into like the plot points of why she's doing this, because, you know, ordinarily I'm not huge on spoilers in movies. Like, it's not something that usually bothers me. Like, I could have gone into Avengers Endgame knowing that Captain wields Mjolnir. You know, I would have been fine with that. But it's like, if twists and secrets are like part of the plot points of the movie, I never want to give away too much.
I think anyone listening, I would have hoped they would have turned off by now, because if not, we've ruined it.
Yeah, but if you have seen it, yeah, and this one isn't well loved on IMDb. It's got 5.2 out of 10, which isn't terrible. I guess that means, you know, it's worth a watch, but I like it. And you were saying that you actually think this could do with a good modern update.
Well, this could easily do with a modern day remake. They could easily turn it into like a psychological thriller of like, and diving deeper into, I'm sure if they remade it now, they would never name the main character Phyllis. So we'll just say the Phyllis remake version. I'm
Tiffany.
Sure they would,
Tiffany,
there we go. They went with Tiffany Allenby. I'm sure they would, they could easily dive into more of a psychological, traumatic experience of this girl going through and again, not do one of the modern day things where you kind of turn her into like an angry bitch or something. Keep her a nice, good young woman who is like traumatized by like, what is happening when I go to bed at night? What am I doing and why am I doing this? I think they could easily turn that into an amazing modern psychological thriller.
You know what I think you do? You go the Lee Whannell's Invisible Man direction.
Yep.
Because so many times in that movie, I was wondering, like, is there going to be like a really wild plot twist where he's not really invisible and she is just going crazy?
The only thing that stopped the only thing that stopped me from knowing that was because they showed the paint scene in the trailer.
Right, obviously.
If I hadn't seen that, because same thing, the beginning, I'm like, is she just messing with her head? Is she doing this like in her sleep? Is she seeing things? But with that, this you really could, because then people could, like, there could be people who'd be like, oh, it's obvious. And then you'd have the other people come back and be like, yeah, but if you saw the original, there was no she-wolf at all. So then it's like, what is the remake gonna do? Is it gonna do the actual twist and she will become a wolf, or will they literally make it you think, oh, because it's the remake there is, and then there still isn't? You could literally go either way and just get a good writer, and I'm sure they could remake this very well.
And going back to the original here, I feel like, did we talk about how this was sort of the original idea for the Wolfman with Lon Chaney?
I remember you telling us in the first episode of the first Wolfman that they wanted to do more psychological, but they basically told them you have to have a monster or something.
Yeah, they decided, you know, to get a bigger buck, you actually do the monster makeup and show the monster. This was the idea originally, was, you know what, let's keep it psychological. Is he going insane, or is he turning into a werewolf at night? And they followed through here, and some people don't like it, but I think it's really solid.
I agree. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the performances. I enjoyed the kind of like who's where, who's doing what. Probably the funniest thing was they were like okay, it's called She-Wolf of London. They don't look like they're in London at all. They look like they're in the countryside.
Yeah, they mentioned Scotland Yard, but
they mention it, but like if you want to look at what looks more like somebody in London, like I think
Werewolf of London.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The original one, Werewolf of London, that one very noticeably took place in what felt like London when he was walking down the streets.
Yeah,
you know what I
almost
almost want? At some point I almost want to rewatch that one and then watch this one again, because it's almost like the first chapter of a werewolf book was Werewolf of London. Then all the middle chapters were Lawrence Talbot, and then they closed his story, and then the epilogue is She-Wolf, even though it doesn't have a wolf.
Yeah, but what's the other thing I was going to mention about that? Another great thing about this, what makes it a great mystery, is there were so many times I was thinking like, okay, so is she turning into this monster? Is she crazy and like thinks she's turning into this monster and just going out and killing people? Is it her cousin? Because we see in several moments her cousin is sort of dressed the same way. And then there was the moment when I was pretty sure I knew who it was, and I'm just like, is that going to be her? It's a great mystery because it keeps you guessing, and you're very actively involved watching it. And I think this is honestly the first of these movies to really get me invested in that way.
Yeah, I agree. It was a good mystery film. I mean, it's the only mystery film out of all of these, I'd say.
Yeah, really.
I think they pulled it off. I think we almost got to do an episode at the very end where we do like top 5 underrated or top 5 biggest like surprises out of all of these. Cause if I was going to do that like now, I'd have to look over the list and rethink everything. But I know for a fact this one and Invisible Woman would be on like top 5 most unexpected enjoyments or something.
Yeah. So, I don't know if there's a ton more to say, but I really enjoyed this one.
I agree. Phyllis was fun to follow. Her aunt was that perfect, almost evil stepmother. She was like so nice, but then when you find out the end, it's like, wow, you are evil. What is wrong with? And I mean, the way she died made me laugh, though.
Oh. Okay, we're in spoiler territory.
I'm not gonna.
Also, that was like a minute and a half away from the ending. Did you notice that?
Yes.
I was on my PS3 watching this, and I like pressed the button to see how much time we had left, and I'm just like, there's a minute and a half left, and she's chasing after the maid with a knife. And at first, I thought she was just gonna fall down and like break her neck or something, but no, like she stabbed herself. I'm just like, oh well, all right then.
And they run in while Hannah's like standing over her, and she's like, she stabbed herself, and they're like, oh no. I'm like, great investigative work right there.
I know.
The maid says that the woman of the house killed herself as you're standing over her, and you just automatically believe her.
I know. And also, I love in these old movies, after going through traumatizing events, like they're just sort of fine at the end. Like,
I know.
The girl's fiance goes up and talks to her, and she's just like, she's going to kill me. No, sweetheart, she won't kill anyone anymore. Smiles, the end. I'm like, this was a horrifying incident, and y'all are just smiling at each other?
I'm not going to lie. Do you know what I actually thought was going to happen when he ran in that room? I thought he was going to go in there and she was going to be dead. She told her she was giving her poison.
Yeah, maybe she didn't give her enough yet.
Imagine if that's how this movie had ended, with her dying. And like he runs in there and she died from the poison. It would have been like, that would have been an even lower note than the Mummy's the one where he went down into
the Mummy's ghost.
Yeah, where he went down in the quicksand with the girl. I would have been like, again, what is with Universal and just killing off these kind, innocent characters in such horrible ways? But in their horror films, at the end of the day, they don't always get happy endings. But this one did. I liked it though, because it was like a murder mystery. It was like a romantic murder mystery.
Yeah,
and I could easily see that.
very very different from anything we've seen, but I wasn't disappointed at all. Like it was like The Invisible Man Returns was very different from anything we've seen. Didn't really love it. The Mummy's Curse was way too familiar and we didn't love it. This was something we hadn't seen before and I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Same.
not loved, but I at least really really liked it.
And for, again, 61 minutes, they accomplished a lot, I felt. I still, like I said, would like to see a modern day remake. I feel that there's more they could add to it to add a little bit more modernized tension, we'll call it, because it felt like there was a lot here where I'm like, oh, like I forget what the other one was, where we said like they could have added a little bit more and gone deeper and could have had like a true classic that would have always been remembered. But this is when, again, I think they could do a good job with a remake of this. But for this one being what it is, no, this was pretty good. I
Really
highly
solid.
suggest this one to people.
Agreed.
Well, that about wraps this one up. Any closing thoughts?
A great murder mystery, and it keeps you guessing for as short as the movie is.
Agreed. Check it out, guys. So thank you for tuning in tonight, and we will be back in a couple weeks where we are nearing the end. We don't have much longer to go. Ken, how does it feel?
It's been a journey, but I've enjoyed it.
Same. So everyone, thank you for listening in. We will talk to you soon.
Take it easy.